What is up, Flockers? That's my fellow lockers and aspiring lockers. Today I wanted to show you how I do my reties. So I always start out with two twisty tie bands, whatever they're called, and I also have my DIY little threading needle that I use. And the first thing that I always do is I will part my hair down the center as best as I can. And once I've done that, then I will put both of those sections back into little Pippi Longstocking ponytails as best as I can, just so that I can gather all of that hair and work on one section or one little area at a time. I'm not one that uses clips. I'm not one that does a ton of separating and don't use combs to make sure that all my parts and whatnot are straight. So, like I said, my preferred method that I do and that I use is just the Pippi Longstocking ponytail method. So once that I have those both up, then I'm ready to get to the actual retie portion of the retie. And it's not the cutest look, but whatever. The great thing about Microlocs is that, and interlocking, is that you can literally do it at your own pace. And if I finish a row and gotta go out, I can just let it down and go out and then pick back up where I left off before. So as you see here, I will take out one lock from the section at a time, and I'll just pull it down and separate it. If there's not a lot of hairs around it doing the most, then I'll just go ahead and go straight in, thread my crochet needle with my lock. And thankfully my locks are all pretty thin, and so I've never had any issues getting any of them through the eye of the needle. And the needles do have pretty large eyes, but they're still small relatively. So, and because of the material that they're made out of, they slide through really easily. They don't cause any damage to my lock bed. They're not snagging or pulling or anything like that. And the eye of these needles is much smaller than metal retie tools that I have seen and used. And so I find that I have the least amount of issues or snagging or pulling when I use these. And it's just a smooth, seamless process that I really enjoy. And whether or not you can tell or not, I do use the 4-point rotation with my locks. And so I go through and I make sure that I go in opposite directions each time. So I believe I went from east to west, south to north, then west to east, and then ending from north to south. And I always want to make sure that I have enough rotations with each lock so that I'm not causing too much tension or pulling on them in any way. And with this lock, I did have a lot of loose hairs around the base, and so what I will do is, instead of using a comb, I just use my fingers and feel my way along, and I will do my best to get the part or that section straight, and I'll take those hairs and wrap them around the base of that lock before I go in and start the actual retightening process, in hopes that I will be able to just get those hairs in that lock and that they will follow suit. But honestly, keeping it real, most of the time they end up coming back out anyways. So I wish that I could say that wrapping them around solved it and fixed the problem, but it doesn't. Maybe it does at the ends, but yeah, it's not a foolproof system to completely fix the issue of loose hairs. That's something that I've just had to learn to embrace and get over. And then, as you can see, I just go through and I do the same thing. Now, in the first one, I was only able to get through one 4-point rotation. I believe with this one, I had a little bit of extra growth and extra space with this one. So I was able to go in and do another, I believe, 2 points of the 4-point rotation. So for me, the most important thing is that I always end going north to south, or end going downward. So either I need to be able to get in a full rotation, or I need to be able to get in 2 points of the 4-point rotation, so that I can either go west to east, east to west, and then end going north to south, if that makes sense. Sorry for those that aren't understanding the directions. Maybe a clock is easier for you to understand. So I always end going 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And from here, it's a pretty simple system in retightening. It just repeats itself. I go one lock at a time, and I can't say that I always stick with just one side of my head. Sometimes I will do several rows on one side before going to the other. Sometimes I go straight across. There's honestly no routine or method to my madness, in the sense of exactly how I do it. I just do it feels good. And like I said, the great thing about interlocking is that you can literally do as many as you have time to do and then come back to it later when you have time to do more, and you don't have to worry like when you're retwisting and having clips and stuff. I can go out to the store, I can go out to the movies, I can go out and have fun on the town without having to worry about only part of my hair being redone. So I really love that about the interlocking maintenance. And here we are on the next day. I'm further up on my head, but I still got my Pippi Longstocking ponytails, and now I'm on the side of my head. The method and the retie method has not changed at all. Now you can just see it a little better. That's on the side of my head, but we're still doing, let me use the clock this time. So we're still doing 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Ooh, no, y'all, I said that wrong. 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And then 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock to finish. That is an entire brain workout trying to figure that out and say it all out loud. But again, I don't use combs to separate and get my parts straight. I've never been about that perfect part game. And so I really do just use my fingers and feel. I typically do not do this in a bathroom with the mirror. You can even see now I'm not even looking up at the mirror. I do it all by feel. So typically I'm doing my retie sitting in front of the TV or sitting in front of my iPad watching a show. Now, I wouldn't recommend you be distracted if it's your first time doing your own retie, because you could end up going through the same entryway multiple times and causing holes. But once you've got the hang of it and you don't have to think about what's your next rotation anymore, then you can definitely get a little lax and start to watch shows or enjoy music or whatever while you're doing your retie. Right. And I just find that when I'm looking in the mirror, I end up taking a lot longer because I get distracted and I end up looking at the parts and I'm like, ooh, look at that crispness. So I try not to do all of that. But yeah, as you can see here, like I said, I go in with my hands. I'll separate with my fingers just to make sure that my parting, which is C parting, there's no grit or anything in my hair. It's just a scoop-to-doop parting. And I just make sure that as many of the hairs that should be with that lock are with that lock before I go in and start the retie process. And I don't tie anything off. I don't rope anything off or clip anything off. Well, as you watch me just finish this, I hope you have found this video enjoyable. If you have, please make sure to give it a like so that I know what type of content you're enjoying. And also hit that subscribe button so that you can join the flock. And before you go anywhere, make sure that you check out some of the other videos that will pop up on the screen at the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one.